Okay then, we'll make a start, everyone, and thanks for coming, and welcome to our first Burnley Bondholder event of this year, online, like the last one last year, which is a shame, but hopefully the next ones later this year will be in person. So I'm just going to share my screen now. Hopefully. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that, but welcome, as I say, welcome again. I would also really like to thank Burnley Football Club as our host today, and particularly Sean and Alan for giving up their time on their busy schedules. And you'll be pleased to know that I've learned from previous experience, whenever Sean's speaking, keep mind brief, because I know you'll have lots of questions for him and you really want to hear about the club. So I understand my role today, so I will keep it brief. Just
that brief is stopped already.
yeah, I'm just trying to get this to come down. Okay. For people who don't know me, I'm Mick Cartledge, Chief Exec at Burnley Football Club. I did that last time. Chief Exec of Burnley Borough Council.
Hope you do well.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
I
like it. Burnley Council.
Yeah, so thank you.
You'll be aware that the government launched their roadmap a few months ago, a very cautious roadmap to a certain degree, but we now are starting to see sectors opening up very slowly, but slowly coming forward. What's been really impressive for me is the way that Burnley's infection rate has greatly reduced. So we were actually around over 1,000 per 100,000 of the population just after Christmas. We're now at 70 per 100,000. Significant reduction, everyone pulling together on that. And I think it sets us up nicely for the roadmap going forward. And I know from discussions with Karen at the college, testing's now taking place as the schools and colleges have gone back. And Karen was telling me yesterday, they've done 5,000 lateral flow tests and there was 0 positives in that 5,000. So that bodes well for the future. Obviously, different sectors start to open up, non-essential retail and quite a range of other services from the 12th of April. 17th of May, indoor hospitality opens, and then 12th of June, a lot more relaxing of restrictions and saying no legal limits on social contact. Although I do think there will be some refreshing of sort of social distancing guidelines. Throughout that, as a council, we try to support communities in different ways. And in terms of businesses, we've been putting in testing, lateral flow testing, and we've also been paying out a significant amount of grants. We've paid out over £30 million worth of grants over the last 12 months of government grants and additional restriction grants. So hopefully that support's been helpful, but we know it's been very challenging for a lot of businesses. And I really want to thank you all for your resilience and the way you've sort of really knuckled down in dealing with the COVID response. Obviously, there was the Chancellor's budget, lots in there, lots for us as individuals, but lots in there for businesses. Obviously, furlough being extended, support for the self-employed, 5 billion in restart grants, business rates, holidays continuing for a period, but we are seeing throughout a number of those schemes a phasing down of support. Other things that you may not be aware of that were in that budget that we're looking at as a council and with partners is around the Levelling Up Fund. Burnley was identified as a priority 1 area with a potential of up to £20 million of funding, and Community Renewal Fund. Again, Burnley was identified as a priority with up to £3 million of revenue funding. So we're working through that, working through the guidance, working with partners on that. So some real opportunities there going forward, and we will keep you updated on how we're applying and using those funds. I think at the last meeting I did talk about our economic recovery plan. I'm pleased to inform you that our economic recovery board has been set up. That is now in place, and we've also set up a number of task forces. So there's a task force on business chaired by Miranda Barker from the Chamber. I'm chairing the place task force, and we'll be establishing a people and skills task force, and that will be setting up in the next month. So we'll keep you updated on the work of the recovery board and those task forces, but they're really important in driving forward our response and our recovery for the economy. Move forward. Just want to give you an update on Pioneer Place. I think I've mentioned at the last meeting, we've phased down, reduced it slightly, and we're looking at a phased approach. But what I'm really pleased to say is that we did, with the council, approve the funding package and business case. We've had support from Lancashire County Council. We've got support, 3.6 million grant from the government's Getting Building Fund. We secured that through the LEP, and the revised planning applications in. It's for a 7 cinema relocation of the real cinema, and 5 food and beverage units, new public realm, and there is space for further expansion. Planning applications in, revised planning application, that will go to committee in end of this month, and that will start on site this summer and will be completed in 2023. And really important in respect of diversifying our town centre, really important. In terms of Burnley brand work, you'll be aware, hopefully, that with the team have been working on the Work and Invest press release campaign and media campaign. That's been really successful. I'd just like to thank Fagan and Worley. They've been branded up to their fleet with the Invest in Burnley logo. So many thanks to everyone at Fagan and Worley. And you may have seen, hopefully, the latest version of the In Business Burnley is out. Thanks to everyone who contributed. Another great read, really does show how our businesses have diversified and innovated throughout COVID. Includes stories on Whatmore's £20 million investment in projects and new machinery. Talks about Forbes Reinvention and Resilience report, and it highlights 50 businesses. 12 of those 50 businesses in the region were Burnley bondholders. So really positive, and just shows Burnley in a great light. And we continue to get new bondholders come in. I'm pleased to say these are our latest bondholders. So despite COVID, we still get a lot of businesses who come in. Dante Furniture, Lee Hall, Chartered Surveyors, VR Pixel, Lancashire Adult Learning, Butchers Fair, First Construction Safety, IP4 Digital, and Bandicoot Limited. Welcome to all those new businesses coming to the bondholders. Thanks for your continued support, and thanks to other businesses, existing businesses, for your support. Finally, before I move on, a big thank you to Neil Hart. Obviously, we're all aware that Neil's left the club. Neil was the chair of bondholders, only for a short period, but during that time, he did give lots of new ideas and support to the team. So thanks to Neil. All the best for the future for Neil. And obviously, we will be going out now to recruit a new chair of bondholders. So that will be watch out for that. Rachel will be sending that out soon. And finally, then, as I say, a big thank you to everyone for your continued support. I'm going to finish now. It says I'd keep it brief because I do want to give you lots of time for Sean and Alan to speak and answer your questions. Unfortunately, I've got to leave just 10 minutes before the end. I've got a dental appointment, so apologies for that. I'm just at the end of a root canal work, so I'd much rather be here, I must admit, but I'll be here for most of it. But I'll finish there, and I'm going to hand over to Alan and Sean now.
Well, you've got your bit in, and now you're off.
No, I'm staying, Sean. I've just got to go 10 minutes just before, that's all. But I've been listening to most of it.
See you later. Bye. I hope it goes well.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Always
I'll hand over to you. I'll stop screen sharing. I don't know who wants to go first. Alan or Sharon.
Oh. Would you?
Rachel, do you want to I don't mind. I'm a bit nervous because it's the biggest crowd I've played in front of for a while.
It would be great if you could both just take us through, obviously, the new ownership, new plans for the club, and talk to us for about 10-15 minutes. And then I've got some questions that the bondholders have sent through that we can wrap up with. So just over to you guys, really.
Well, I'll start just by, obviously, sort of in front of everyone, officially welcoming Alan and his team. You know, I've got to know him slightly differently, as you can imagine, the same as we're doing now via Zoom and stuff. But obviously, over the last few weeks, once we're all clear in the testing program that we have in place, we managed to have some more meetings face to face. So we're building a relationship at the moment, as in me and Alan and his team, and he's getting a feel of the club. It's been very difficult for all of them with not seeing the locals physically. We were just discussing that before we came on. So I think that'll build over time, and of course, local business as well. But really, we're still heading in the right direction. A lot of work being done behind the scenes. A lot of alignment and realignment will come, obviously, as we get to know each other better and all the people involved get to know each other. And like I say, I can't stress enough, I think it's very difficult when you can't be face to face and build that human connection. It's difficult through a screen. So I think there's been some good work done with what can be done at the moment, and I think that'll continue and improve, as Mick was mentioning about the opening up of the country. And I was just suggesting to Alan, we'll all hope that Witherspoons is open soon, obviously. That's very important to the Burnley Massive, in my experience, that is, and knowing the Burnley Massive. So we hope that'll come soon too. I don't think Alan can make that happen, but I'm sure Mick and his team will be working hard to make that so.
And so, you know, it's been great, you know, the last few weeks of trying to get, you know, settled in, as Sean says, you know, getting to know everyone within kind of the club and our team. We're starting to get, you know, more of our, you know, staff and that back together. Unfortunately, you know, the couple of departures on our side, you know, you guys have already mentioned, you know, we really did enjoy our time with Neil, and we were looking forward to having more of that, you know, understand that, you know, everyone has opportunities. So we've kind of moved through that and are starting to work with the rest of the team to, you know, get to know kind of the plans that they already had in place for kind of growing the business and where we were going and taking with it. And, you know, so I'm sure they'll come up from the question perspective, which we always, or at least I always find it much better to answer your questions than to give you, you know, a monologue. But, you know, just 30-second background, we're very, very happy to be here. You know, we see that the opportunity from a platform perspective, if you look at it, you know, sport is driving a tremendous amount of opportunity, both from a media perspective as well as kind of growth in a lot of different things that happens in our lives. And we just see that especially with the Premier League and especially with the way that football is in this country, that there are some opportunities to do things a little bit differently from our perspective. And that's what we're working on and spending time on. You'll see most of that as you ask some of the questions in regards to kind of the stadium and some of the things that we're trying to do from a venue perspective, you know, and some hopeful upgrades and things that we would like to do. But more importantly, you know, I think it's really about not changing a lot of what's already made it so special, and much more about how do we actually integrate ourselves into, you know, this wonderful community that's already here, and, you know, help in any way that we can from that regard. But myself and my partners are spending, you know, 80% of our time here. We get to go back kind of on a rotational basis. You'll get to meet some of them over time as well. But we're looking forward very much to having, you know, all of you back into the stadium and being able to actually walk around the streets and meet people and actually get to know the community very differently than we have for the last little while. Because I don't think I could, you know, just go to the gas station and the grocery store, you know, too many more times without being bored to death. So, and I'm looking forward to going to the Witherspoons as soon as it's open. So Mick, we're looking forward to you helping out on that front. So maybe it'd be easier because, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of questions for both of us, but probably for the most important person here that everyone's looking to talk to, because I doubt that anything I have to say is that important compared to what happens every week that we all care about, because I care just as much.
We do have, we've got a few questions coming in. Leslie Burrows says, it's for you, Alan. Congratulations. Burnley is a brilliant club with the best manager in the world, best town, good decision. And then she said, apart from the obvious, what is your biggest ambition for Burnley Football Club?
Oh, the biggest ambition. Well, I'd like it to be recognized for all the things that are so great, locally and pretty much from a regional perspective. I'd like it to be recognized for that much more broadly than it is. But it'd be really easy to say that we'd love to be in Europe, which we do, and we'd love to see a Champions League win, which Sean will probably laugh at. But we'd love to see all those things. I think the biggest though is probably just that recognition that there is something special here, and that maybe that's not ambitious enough to start with, but I just think that there's probably not as much knowledge outside of even Lancashire, the Northwest, as to what's actually here and why is it special and why is there such a what I'll call a small close-knit community this close to Manchester that's in the EPL and has something that people don't really recognize what that is. But I'd like that to be recognized more broadly, and I think there's a lot of benefits for that I think comes through. Just so I'm clear, a lot of that recognition then can be translated if we can monetize that into being able to put greater investment for Sean and the team so that they can actually reach some of those ambitions on the playing side, and so that we can get to some of those places and hopefully hold up some trophies that I think have been long deserved and which have been held up here previously.
Burnley's definitely unique. I know you've only been to Tesco and the petrol station, but what were your initial thoughts upon arriving in the borough?
Initial thoughts, because I came and visited prior to actually, living here now. But initial thoughts in quarantine probably aren't fair because it's not really getting a chance to see and visit as much. But I mean, we're up just a little bit up in Clitheroe. It's beautiful around here. There's great places to just from a living perspective, just really, really nice places that I would love to visit with my family who are not here. And that there are, I think, a lot of really, really lovely people, which we only get to visit in the grocery store, and we get to see kind of a little bit from some of the interactions like this that we've had. So, initial thoughts are that we're going to really enjoy being here. But, my wife is very much, along with my kids, very much looking forward to being here during the summer. And so initial thoughts are great place to live, beautiful area, beautiful people, and looking forward to, getting to know more of it as it opens up.
Brill. There is a strong community spirit here, and Burnley is well known for the work it does in its community. Is that still going to play a really important role in what the club does? Absolutely.
There's nothing about what's, what the community stands for that doesn't play a hugely important role in what we're doing. It would have been much easier to go and try and buy a club or be involved in a club somewhere where there was just a much more, central London, Manchester area, where it didn't have a community feel. That was never part of kind of our thought process. So it has to be part of it going forward because that's what drew us here in the first place.
James Hargreaves from Backhouse Insurance Brokers has said, what is the most visible change you expect to see at Burnley after your first year in charge? So it's probably both of you to answer that one, I'd say.
I can tell you aesthetically, we'd like to upgrade some of the facilities. We're in that process right now, working from a number of aspects. We just think that there's some stuff that's tired that we could hopefully change fairly quickly. That probably be the most visible because that's what people can see from the outside. And I think as people experience it, may take a little bit longer for us to be able to put other things in place. But I think just you'll see a little bit of the change hopefully within the stadium here shortly.
Brilliant, thank you. Lynette from Alcidian is asking, what are your plans to level up gender diversity, particularly on the board at the club, and what role can women play in its future?
Well, a couple of things. One, it was already part of, we've already been interviewing before we ever came to the UK for, more diversity within the board from our side. You'll hear me speak quite regularly that, I'm a big believer in having multiple voices, helping steer and guide, and influence the decisions that we make. We don't have, a number of what I would call diverse voices that we still need within, our board, but that will take some time as we get to know folks and we get to spend time. Not going to do it by deciding over Zoom meeting people. I want to get to know and, recognize kind of the best opportunities to work with people for going forward. So there's tremendous opportunity. There will be change within our board. That's a fact. It will just take time as we kind of get to know and work with folks. We've already seen that we've brought the women's team into the club as, on the first team side. We'll continue to do that and continue to expand out other opportunities to work on, diversifying things, both from the way we think, but also the way that we integrate other parts of the community into, the club.
Brilliant. Sean, this one's for you. It's from Claire at Cube HR. She says, as a manager, there'll be times when you have the players with the backroom and the backroom staff, after a bad run of performance, it might leave them feeling demoralised. And if they've got bad injuries, might be worried about the health. What advice do you give to the team when they feel this way, and how do you refocus them?
Well, I think there's always a reality. The challenge in the Premier League is tough. The players have learned that. So, I think the secret for us is not getting too high with the highs, not getting too low with the lows. You've got to enjoy the good things, of course. But things go against us. It's rationalising it, looking at the market we're in, looking at the realities of what we do. Within that, analysing through really literal analysis of the games programme as well. We try and work on what I call positive realities. I think if you go too far into bluff and black and you just go and gung ho, we're going to win every week and all that sort of stuff, that's all well and good, but it very rarely happens in the Premier League. So there's got to be an adjustment to the reality of the challenge, but equally in a positive manner. So do we believe we can win every game? Yes, in theory. Is that really likely to happen? No. So you've got to find the healthy balance between, if you take a knock, not letting it break you and learning from it. And when things are going well, not getting too carried away and thinking that, saying that I have is the last one doesn't owe you the next one. Your last success, whatever that success may be, it doesn't owe you the next one. You've got to keep working to get the next one. So we try and just find a bit of balance in how we work. Excuse me. And equally, how I send messages through the media, not getting too carried away when we're doing really well, but enjoying it. But equally, when things are not so good, just finding a bit of a level thinking on it. And that, obviously, hopefully, that goes into the team as well. So, yeah, that's kind of a thought on how we found an adjustment to what the realities of what we do are.
Well, Sean, the fans were recently voted in a study as the most passionate football fans. How would they receive news of the new investment and the new direction of the club? What feedback have you been getting?
Well, firstly, they've done really well, because it must be really passionate if you're not in a stadium and they win an award. So that's the first thing. Fair play to them. I thought that is some passion enough. But no, joking apart, I mean, look, I've come to, I think the biggest thing for me as manager is when I first got here, the passion was probably going the wrong way a little bit, maybe because I wasn't accepted, maybe there was a bit of, I wasn't sure the messages coming through the club into the fans. I think that's really, really important. And that's what I've learned. Just be honest, even if it's not such, not such good news, just be honest. I think they accept, I've learned that people here accept honesty. They value in it and honest opinions. And I think over time we've generated a good alignment through the club into, whether it's me going through the media or meeting people and the team meeting people. So I think that there's a real alignment about the fans. Now, I think I just get the feeling that when you're honest with them and they kind of get their head around the honesty, whether it's good news or bad news, they want to stand by the club. And I think that's the passion. It's, born Burnley, really. I remember fans telling me that many, many moons ago, I first got here, you're born Burnley. And I think that's true. So I think there is an attachment from the fans to the club and the club to the fans. I think it's real. I think it's authentic. I think the club needs to grow. And Alan's big on that. But equally, we've already spoken, myself and Alan and his team, about the authenticity of the area and what the club means and how the people are still got a real link to the club. So as much as the club has to move forward, because it definitely has to, particularly on a kind of corporate level, but not losing the earthiness and the link between the people, the link between the club and the reality of it. I think that's, over my time, that's become a real important bond. Hence why when we do have some tough times on the pitch, I must say the passion has stayed positive, and that's a really tough thing now in modern football. everyone wants change immediately. They all want to win every game. And if you're not playing the right way and all the things that you'll all read about, you'll know about. But I think the Burnley fans have become very patient. Don't get me wrong, they still demand, don't get me wrong, they still demand from me and the team, but in a more positive fashion where they go, okay, I think we've got a group of people who really care, which we do, and give their lot to the cause. And I think they accept that as a minimum. And of course, if you can win on top of that, then all the better.
Alan, what do you think to the fact that Sean's got a pub named after him and a big mural on the side of a building?
Well, Alan's a massive drinker too,
Yeah,
so it'd be an important fact of that.
It'll become my second home. I think it's very the first time I came into town and actually saw it, I thought that was actually very, very cool. I think it's interesting because one of the things that also, you and some of you will have heard me say this publicly, one of the things that drew us here and myself was the longevity of Sean being here, and to get, buildings and stuff named after you, it's a relatively short period of time, even for, 7, 8 years.
It is a pub hall, it's not the town hall. It's town hall on a stand.
It's still, it's a lot of respect.
Right? Even a kebab house or something. I might, we'll see.
So if he stays another 20 years, we might rename the stadium. How's that?
We heard it here first. Mike Whitworth says, how important do you see the academy in bringing players through to the first team?
Is this me or Alan? Or both?
Both, yeah.
Why don't you go first?
Well, the thing is, I'm not going to, bring the story too wide, but when I first got it, when we had our first success and got in the Premier League, we had to work in reverse order because the pitch had to be right, the training ground had to be right. A lot of the finance went into that people know, to then allow the academy to grow. Because when I got here, the academy was just really running like a really old style academy. When a lot of the academies, including the club I came from at Watford, they were really in front of the curve. They'd invested in it, they'd put it in place, and they got the rewards from that. So we've had to work in reverse order by getting the training ground sorted out, the ground sorted out, the team sorted out. So the last few years, we've been working backwards towards the academy, but it takes time. People, there's this kind of imaginary thing that money solves everything in football and life, maybe. It doesn't. You've still got to have the raw ingredients that go into academy. We've got lots of challenges here. We've got, obviously, people down the road, our busy neighbours in Manchester United and Man City. You've got Liverpool, Everton. It's very difficult to get players here at a young age and keep them here all the way through the system and get them into the first team. So that's a work in progress. I've always been big on the thought of it. Obviously, we've had some leaders with Dwight McNeil in that side of things, who came in a bit later, about 14, but has still gone through the back end of the academy system. We've got some of the young players now doing well and getting involved in the first team. Some maybe by default with all the challenges we've had, but they're still involved and they're still learning from that. But I think over time, it's layering it up from a very young age and trying to get that foundation, but also the alignment through into the first team. And the good thing, yet again, working in reverse, is Dwight McNeil's been a shining example of that. So the young kids now, they see people who've gone through the system, they see they're in the first team and others, but it gives them more sort of thirst, if you like, to go through the system. So it's a mixture of getting the system right, which I think will improve and continue to improve, but equally getting the raw ingredients in.
I would just add, it's very important from where we sit as to both the future of the club, but also just the connectivity to the youth and the ability to see exactly what Sean has described, that chance to actually develop through a program and actually end up at the end of the day on the first team. There has to be, success stories shown from that and regularly. So the ability to do that and continue to build upon some of the legacy that's already started, I think, and the facilities are fantastic, to be fair. I'm very, very pleased with kind of what we have. And I think, with Sean's help and others, we'll be able to continue to invest on that and see that, mature to the way that I think, the coaching staff and others would like to see a real pipeline of opportunity for our youth.
Brilliant. Got a couple of comments in the chat. Claire from Keep It has reminded me that Sean also has a horse named after him.
Oh, do I? Has it got the same teeth as me?
Paul Walsh has suggested Dystome is the name of Turf Moor, I think. Dystome.
Ashtone.
Dystome, yeah, apparently.
Dystome. Dyche don't. I was struggling to get my head around what name you were saying. But yeah. Okay, well, all right, we're still not.
We can work on that.
Still not a stand. Maybe
we'll work on the stand. We can work on that.
Yeah. Right.
Somebody's asked, obviously, I think we may have answered a bit of this when we talked about community work, but charity work, is that going to still continue in earnest?
Absolutely. There's no, in fact, I would expect in talking with the community foundation and folks there, I think it actually probably needs to grow, but I think it's a matter of how. And I think, look, Neil and the team did a fantastic job of, taking what was there when he came and actually building it to what it is today. And the team that's there is doing a great job, all things considered with what we're all going through. But there's plenty of room for us to continue to invest further in that space, both as a community, but also as a club. So yeah, it's a critical part of what we do. Yes.
I think from the playing point of view, just for reference for people here, we've got the most hours in the Premier League of what our players do. Forgetting about COVID, obviously, although during COVID, we've had players do Zoom calls, personally messages, and also, I mean, we've I don't want to embarrass anyone, but all of us have given finance to the food side of things, the food bank, and varying charities in various ways. So I think the connection with the reality of the club and the community is still there, and I think over time it will really increase.
Brilliant. Andrew Woodland has said that he was disappointed that the business hub has been disbanded. Was this a business decision?
So I was not familiar with it, to be fair. It was done before we became involved. I understand, and I've gone through with the team on that as to kind of how that came about and what yes, it was a business decision in conjunction with the inability for us to actually open up to people when there were other solutions that were already being provided within the community by other businesses. Now, whether or not that changes over time, I can't answer from that perspective. But yes, it was a business decision, but it was felt that was the fairest option for folks, since we weren't able and still did not see light at the end of the tunnel as to when we could open, and there were other opportunities for folks to go elsewhere.
Thank you. Stephen Young from Lancashire Business User. Sean, what did you say to Klopp in the tunnel, and did you have a drink with him after the game?
Well, in reverse order, the actual idea of having a drink with managers after a game now, that doesn't really happen. Excuse me, and it's more of it's a cultural thing. So the foreign managers don't really do that, in wherever they're from, their backgrounds, they don't really do that. The ones that do have normally been here for quite a long time. So there are managers who do that, but you normally find they've been here 4 or 5 years. I mean, Pochettino used to, Koeman used to, Arsene Wenger used to. But the sort of ins and outs of football now, they don't really allow it. Most of the English or British managers do. They still do that. Even, I think, there's 1 or 2 rooms, because obviously you go in like a manager's lounge or room afterwards. There's 1 or 2 grounds that have got huge rooms. I remember at West Ham we went to see David Moyes, who I know a little bit, because the volume of the room allowed it with the rules and stuff like that. So, yeah, and in reverse order again, with the thing with Klopp, obviously I'm going to share it with all of you so you can put it on social media and Twitter, because I always fall for that with the media too. So it's fair to say that was defending the honour of the team and the club. I didn't actually instigate it against popular belief, but there's no point in me trying to ruin a good story, because the truth often does.
Well, got the final couple of questions now. Leslie Burrows said, Sean, what has been the biggest impact, positive or negative, on the team during the last year?
Well, I think not really a negative. I think everyone understands the realities of what's gone on. So I think the players do as well. I think the biggest positive is the adaptation to it. I think, when you look back at the challenge we had in the first lockdown, coming out of that, everyone was raring to go and everyone was super fit. They'd really looked after themselves, and then we just got injury after injury, which is a real head scratcher, because we obviously analysed the team physically, and so we had all the data. They came back really fit, really looked after themselves and motivated. But then I marvelled at the group with all the challenges we had. Off the pitch, there were some challenges at that time as well, which we would be aware of. So that didn't make it an enjoyable experience, but very positive from the team's point of view and the points we got on the board at the end of last season. And then this season, you know, similar but different. The Burnley spirit that's been there anyway, but we've kind of, you know, enhanced it. Then we've grown on the back of that, you know, and I think that you know, the kind of the feeling of the group, the challenge that comes our way, we've always had a strength about us when them challenges come. I mean, there's still a big challenge in front of us, but we're certainly in a better place than we were early season. And I think, you know, the adaptation to the constant challenge this season, particularly with injuries, has been really pleasing for me because the players never let us down with their effort or belief. Sometimes we lack the moments of truth, but generally they've always had a mindset to give what they can for the shirt. And for me as manager, I've always been proud of that because that was the only thing I promised when I got it. You know, my first ever interview, my first ever press conference said, look, I want a team that puts sweat on the shirt. That's the one thing I'll guarantee the fans in. They'll have a team that give everything. And I think we've never come away from that. So that's pleasing for me.
Thank you. Just the last couple of questions now. Steve from Calico says, over the next 3 years, what would you see as success for the club on the playing side?
I think building on what we've done, you know, some of that goes from playing to finance and recruitment because there's a crossover. But taking away the finance side, I think building on what we've done, looking to continue to establish ourselves in the Premier League. I'll give you an example of why that's important. I remember Joey Barton said a funny thing in an interview once where, this will link in, by the way, in case anyone's wondering. He once was sort of almost told, rather than asked, what does it feel like to be an average Premier League player? And he said, you'll never understand how difficult it is to be an average Premier League player. So the point is, if we're in the Premier League on a continuing basis and people say, well, they're an average Premier League club, that is a massive achievement, let me tell you. To be in the Premier League, the size of Burnley as a town, the size of the club, the story from when I was here and hopefully beyond when I'm not here, whenever that day comes, according to this guy, you know, that will be an amazing achievement. And I'm not. Let me put this right. I'm not trying to lower the bar. I'm not trying to, you know, make out that, oh, that's all we want. But trust me, to be recognised a Premier League club every year for a long period of time, that is an incredible achievement. It doesn't sound it on top. That is an incredible achievement. And the bits that we've had along the way, Europe and finishing 10th last year and points tallies. I mean, points tally is a big one. So can we go and, you know, chase down that 54 points? Be tough this year, then another year. Can we get there? Can we just, you know, try and get above that 54 points and see where that takes us? So that on the pitch, and then still linking that growth to not ripping the fabric of the club out, you know, and that's an important factor, you know, building it rather than just expecting it to happen overnight. So, like I say, please take my words wisely. That's not a doing down. I'm not trying to lower the bar. I'm not trying to make my job easier by saying to everyone, look, you know, it's just amazing to be in the Premier League. But what I'm suggesting, it's a very difficult thing that, you know, we've made it look more comfortable year on year, but it's a very difficult thing for clubs of this size to continue the journey in the Premier League. So that's a good start point. Who knows beyond that?
Brill. Sean Singh from Loxter says, someone outside Wetherspoons told me there's a 450 million war chest this summer. Has it set sail from the US yet?
It's a fair one. Well, if you're outside Wetherspoons, if he managed to just grab himself a couple of drinks, maybe there's a naught on the end of that somewhere, you know what I mean? Or maybe a couple of noughts. I don't know. But that's Alan's world. But I've said, tried to be clear, having spoken with Alan, I think it's an adjustment and a building process rather than rip it all up and, you know, throw money out there, because we've all seen in football particularly, actually, when new owners come in my experience of any football actually, but particularly the Premier League, you know, big thoughts, big statements, we're going to do this, put loads of money into the team, and it often hasn't worked, you know. So it's finding a way of layering it all up, adjusting to the market, which is one thing. So there is a truth to the market, which is very difficult. We don't know how that's going to respond with COVID. That's another thing, you know, and the coming out of COVID and how that's going to affect the financial market of football. So I think it's more of a building process, or that's my opinion of it. I've spoken to Alan. I'm going to let him speak freely now.
So I would just agree. I mean, look, one of the things that was, you know, very new to us was experiencing the winter window the way that we did this year. And I know that people don't necessarily understand in the same way of actually being in it and trying to actually do things that are things that you've planned for, wanted to do, fully capable of doing, and not being able to is very frustrating. I would just say that we're learning in this whole process, and I think that we've all experienced something, in our own lives that has also translated to football in the same way, which is, the world has changed in a number of factors and we're adjusting to it. So even if we wanted to go and do some of the things like we saw in the winter window, they may not be there in the same way coming and moving forward. Just as an example, most teams are not really interested in trying to acquire or to sell a lot of players unless they're in a very bad financial position. And instead, most people have taken the position of, it's better for me to keep my players together versus, making them available for others. And we saw that very clearly a couple of months ago. We're not sure what we're going to see coming in the summer in the same way. So we're fully prepared to be aligned and to make sure that we're doing our best to try to go out there and add to the squad where there's opportunities. But look, COVID has been very, very, very devastating to a lot of businesses, football clubs included. So we'll see what comes. But I think what's more important is to what Sean has already laid out, which is we need to establish that we're here and here for good, not for just a couple of seasons kind of thing. And he's done an amazing job, as you would all agree, I have no doubt. And long may it continue.
Well, hey, and by the way, you keep mentioning Wetherspoons. We've got to support the Royal Dice, because people actually think that I own that. There's another strange part of my world. They actually go, you haven't put that on you. I go, no, I don't own it. Someone just put my name on it. So there's another twist of my life.
And then just the final one, sorry, I'm conscious of time. Somebody's asked, how would you like the Burnley businesses and the Burnley bondholders in particular to continue supporting the future of the club? What role does that relationship play?
That's a great question. I mean, outside of being as supportive as they have been in the past, I don't have a specific other than, give us the feedback, help us understand how we help you. We're in the process, as I said, in doing some things at the stadium side. We're, probably changing a lot of things, both internally and externally, to kind of help attract more, eyeballs to the stadium. I think you'll see that. We've spoken to a number of media outlets in America as to, and other parts of the world as to how we make it more attractive to them to want to be there, want to film, want to do things from a media perspective. I would say, help us understand what's beneficial to you as far as getting, your brands and your, opportunities to be involved. That may just be the match day experience, but for others, it may be, look, the platforms that we're building for people to recognize and interact with the club. There may be other opportunities that are helpful to folks as their businesses need that help. I'll give you a small example of what we did with this app that we got involved with on the artificial intelligence. I mean, we had over 10 million hits around the world. Looking at the app, all on the back of us just saying that we were associated with it. So there are things that I know that we can do together. It's more of hearing from you as to how can we be helpful as well. And if it's just that you want a great experience when you come on a Saturday, that's great. If there's other things that we can be doing together, please tell us, because we think that it's really important that we are all together in this journey.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, we've run out of time now. So as Burnley bondholders, we just wanted to thank you both for taking time out. I know you're both very busy and it was an early start for us, but yeah, thank you very much. And hopefully
thanks, Karen. Karen, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.